Americans are living in self-storage units to escape the high cost of living. What's up, guys? So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about this. I've seen a couple of videos on this, but no one's really addressing the real problem. There's too many YouTubers out there that are blaming the victim and not explaining the real reason why this is happening all over the United States. To give you guys some background, I'm 38 years old. I'm from Washington DC, born and raised. Now I live abroad because I was experiencing the same problem on rent affordability by being from Washington DC, where the rents are just so expensive, guys. Okay, the average one bedroom in Washington DC costs about $2,600. Okay, that's not including electricity, food, utilities, right? Cable, okay, internet, all these things, right? So I tapped out. I've been living in Southeast Asia now for several years. And there's a reason why a lot of Americans are moving to places like Thailand, Philippines, Cambodia, whatever. For the same cost of a self-storage unit that your people are sleeping in, you can get a one-bedroom apartment. You can rent a house. Okay, there's lots of people, moving to Thailand, renting, apartments for $300-400 a month. Now, this doesn't work for everybody, but if you can figure out a way to generate some passive income, or you're ex-military, or you can simply, talk to your parents and have them support you for a couple of months while you sort things out abroad. This is an alternative to simply having to sleep in a storage unit. Now, the problem with the storage unit is this is illegal, okay? You're not supposed to sleep in a storage unit for safety reasons. This is illegal in all 50 states to sleep in a storage unit. But it's so many Americans have been forced to break the law and live in a storage unit to save money just due to the high cost of living. But why is this? There's too many people, especially on YouTube, skating around the reason, okay? First thing I want to talk about, it is no one's fault that you have to sleep in a storage unit. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm going to tell you what happened. In 1971, President Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. That was the beginning of the fall of the US dollar. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Our government has let us down by taking away sound money. Sound money prevents these problems. When you have sound money like gold or Bitcoin, silver, right? Sound money is money that can't be printed on demand, okay? It's fixed. The only valuable money out there is fixed money. Money that is fixed, that can't be printed by the Fed or the central bank or any government, okay? Any government that wants to basically dilute its citizens by issuing more currency. When the supply of anything goes up, the price must go down. And this is why I talk so much about Bitcoin. Because what's going on is things are going to get worse in the United States, simply because inflation is going to continue to get worse. I think the problem that a lot of people don't realize is that prices will always be up because the dollar is constantly being printed to pay the interest. This is something that people just don't understand. They're not going to teach this to you in school, okay? So I studied economics in college. We talked about this stuff. We talked about how fiat currencies, i.e. government currencies, were basically issued to be printed away to nothing. This is the whole design. The government doesn't have anything to really give its citizens. The government wants to take care of itself, take care of its family members, its constituents. Yes, it's there for the people, but that's really not what it's for. People need to basically take care of themselves. They need to learn a little bit about money, things that aren't taught in school. So a good place to start is to pick up a few books, okay? You can pick up a few books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's a fantastic book for learning about money, okay? You guys can pick up a book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Another fantastic book, learning a little bit about money, okay? Those are probably my two favorite books when it comes to the basic finances of money. The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those two books right there are going to teach you a lot about money that you won't learn in school. So once you learn a little bit more about money and things like that, you can realize that this whole crisis of people sleeping in self-storage units is not going to get better anytime soon. I'm sorry, it won't. Okay? Let's be real, guys. AI is coming. Artificial intelligence is going to replace a lot of jobs. We're transitioning from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is going to be a lot different for people. The service industry is pretty much over. Okay? What the billionaires have realized is that employees are expensive. Okay? Having employees is very expensive, right? Employees want pensions, right? Retirement plans, severance pay, right? Now there's this whole Me Too movement. A lot of women are suing companies because they were sexually harassed by some horny guy. The companies are realizing that it's a big risk to the bottom line to have employees. Okay, so a lot of companies are transitioning to artificial intelligence to remove employees. What this means is a lot of people working in the service industry will not have a job in the next 5 years. Unfortunately, this is just the way things are turning. Okay, you have to prepare for this. I have to prepare for this. All of us, we have to prepare for this. The best way that I'm preparing for this right now is I'm learning new skills. Okay, I'm traditionally a writer, blogger, right? I'm not really a YouTuber in any sense. I don't have a lot of video editing skills. And I've been doing YouTube for a while, but I haven't really focused on it. But I realized that in the AI era, where you've got tools like ChatGPT can make articles within seconds, I need to learn new skills, okay? Another skill to learn is using AI itself, okay? AI can't use itself, learning how to use these tools, ChatGPT and things like that, okay? Grok, when it comes to X. You can make money and help your company improve its bottom line by getting proficient with these tools. That's going to be very important in the future. Okay? Another thing you can do is maybe, change your mindset and think about a skilled trade, okay? A trade like plumbing, right? Landscaping, okay? Gardening, right? Pool service, things like that. It's going to be very hard for the robots to do these jobs, okay? Simply because these are manual labor jobs and they require you being outside. And I think those will be the last jobs to get replaced. So a lot of people are waking up and realizing, yes, it's fine to be educated. It's fine to have a degree. But there's nothing wrong with working a skilled trade for a year or two to get back on your feet. You don't have to work the same job for the rest of your career. You can always switch jobs. But if you need to become financially stable, you need to do what you need to do. So what I would not recommend is beating up on people like I've seen a lot of people doing on YouTube, and beating up on these people and saying, oh, it's your fault, you need to get it together. Yes, but we need to admit that these government currencies have caused a lot of problems. Now, I always recommend buying Bitcoin simply because Bitcoin is fixed. It can't be printed into nothing, and it helps preserve your purchasing power. So, making a few adjustments, learning about Bitcoin or gold, but I think Bitcoin is just a little bit easier for most people to get involved in, and you're going to get better returns, because there's just not as many people on the network. But learning about these things is going to help you a lot. And what it's going to do is just going to give you a little bit of more freedom. Guys, this is for real, okay? These you're going to see more stories like this, okay? The American dream is that. It's a dream. Some people reach it, but most don't, okay? America is over 350 million people. Most people are not living in a luxurious mansion with fancy cars outside and a loving wife and a bunch of kids in private school. It's a fallacy, guys. I think a lot of people are realizing, especially a lot of millennials are realizing that, a lot of us have been working for corporations most of our lives, and a lot of us don't have a lot to show for it. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck with no family and no children or much, just a clog in the machine. And that's the design of America. That's the design of any business, to enrich the shareholders. America is a corporation, and when you work in America, you're enriching the shareholders of America, i.e. the business owners, the guys that own all the stocks on Wall Street, the you know, the upper class, the politicians. This is what the whole purpose is. And the further you are down on the totem pole, the harder you're going to work and the less you're going to receive. So the number one thing is to not beat up on yourself. Just understand how the game works. You can make a change. Okay? You know, for me, it was simply just moving. I didn't even learn about Bitcoin until I was living abroad. I learned about it from this guy I met from England in Thailand. So that's where I learned about Bitcoin and the freedom that it could provide. You know, I would start there. I would say, you're going to have to move, guys. You aren't a tree. You might not have to move to a different country, but you definitely need to move to a different city or a different town or something like that. Maybe move back in with your parents. If you're able to, move back in with your parents to save money. Sleeping in a storage unit is not a long-term solution, and it's illegal. If you get caught, you could be arrested. So I just wouldn't recommend that. I think there's better solutions out there. I think things like moving back in with family, getting a roommate, moving to a cheaper town, moving to a different country, right? I think that's a better long-term solution, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't let the fall of the dollar push us into storage units. It could happen to anybody, but I think there's better alternatives out there. And for you guys out there that are interested in Bitcoin and you're thinking about moving to a cheaper town or a cheaper country or something like that, like I said, I've been an expat abroad for years. I've traveled over 23 countries solo. I've been all over the world. Been to Southeast Asia, where I currently am. I've been to West Africa, South America, Central America, Europe, and you know, I speak fluent Spanish and a little bit of some other languages. So like I said, if you guys need some assistance, you can reach out to me, you know, and you know, see what we can do. You know, I'm not really a consultant, but I do a lot of people feel like their backs are against the wall, so you know, I'd be happy to help. But you know, this is just a sign of the times. We're going to see more stories like this in the future. It's really important to keep your skills up to date, always be learning, and to really embrace sound money like gold or Bitcoin. Sound money that can't be printed away by the government. It can't be debased. It can't be turned into nothing overnight by, you know, the irresponsible actions of politicians and bankers and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, guys, all government currencies are going to go to their intrinsic value, which is zero. You know, what can you say? You know, most like, you know, most things are just not very valuable that they sell to us. That we've been transacting with fake money for so long, and now the chickens have come home to roost. So it's really back to sound money. That's gold and Bitcoin. You know, everything else is just debt and credit and stuff like that. So hope you guys found some value in this video. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. And that's all I got now. Until now, guys, take care.